Hi, I'm Travis, and if you're anything like me, you can never have too much storage. So today I'm going to talk to you about how to properly deck your attic floor to make it suitable for heavy storage. We'll start with the key considerations before you begin, work through how to protect your home now and down the road, but we won't box you in case you decide to change the way you use that space later on. So let's get started. So most attics are not framed with structure that's adequate for heavy storage and for people to walk around. They just have ceiling joists, which are designed to hold up drywall and insulation. So you really need to reach out to a structural professional like an engineer who can tell you what your capacities are for the use intended. This is going to be heavy storage for me, but someday it might be an office. So we have different considerations to make. We might consider just sistering up our 2x6s, which would be nailing another 2x6 right next to this one to make it stiffer. Alternatively, the engineer might suggest an engineered lumber product like LVL, which is even stiffer. For my use, for our heavy storage needs up here, this had to get a steel beam. So we actually put a steel beam underneath this to really support these 2x6s for the span that they're at. So take your recommendations from the licensed structural professional, and whatever path you choose, make sure you stay in keeping with manufacturer's guidelines for the materials you're going to use, because structure is just not a place you want to guess. So let's talk through the steps. Obviously, we started with planning, and how we use this space dictates everything about the project. Is this going to be some small, lightweight storage? Or, like for my application, heavy storage that might someday become an office? That changes our material selection. It changes what we plan in terms of process and even the details that are to come. So after the planning, those structural considerations that we talked through, then we have to move to something a little more building sciencey that I get excited about, like air sealing. Keep in mind, if you're in your attic, you're likely above your home. And the air that you've got in that house, you've paid to heat and cool, and it's probably nicer air than is in this attic. So we don't want that to leak from one place to the next. It's also a fire code consideration. If we have air leaking into a space, fire can accelerate along that path. So we really want to seal things up. Following that, we're going to talk about insulation. Again, we've heated and cooled the comfortable air inside of our home, and we want to make sure that we don't lose that thermal energy into the attic. We want to always end up with the most efficiency within our home and the most comfort that we're paying for. So insulation is a big part of that. After air sealing and insulation, we got to talk about ventilation. It's an attic. Attics like this are vented, meaning they take the cooler air that's down low and they blow it across the backside of the roof decking and exhaust that hot air. That extends the life of your shingles. You don't want to block those ventilation pathways. So we're going to need to talk about that. And then finally, we're going to go to materials. Now, material selection is going to be dictated in part by your access. Yes, I put a door in here because I think I'm going to do it as an office later. But this is your typical pull-down attic access ladder. And this is a great way to get in and out of your attic with a few small boxes for lightweight storage. And it also is a good way to bring up small boards, 1x8, 1x10, 1x12 planks that you could just screw down to your ceiling joists to create that subfloor that you can place your attic storage materials on. It's really pretty tough to get a larger sheet than that. And for that reason, because I think I'm going to use this as an office maybe someday, I want to be able to do heavy storage. So we put in a door. We'll take this attic access out later, but I've got stairs so I can carry big, heavy things up. This would limit that to some degree to the smaller boards. What I'll be able to do on our project is actually bring in 4x8 sheets of OSB tongue and groove 3/4 subfloor, which I can actually glue to my joists and nail down permanently to make a really strong floor. With that, let's get started on air sealing. So our first step in air sealing is certainly to identify these areas where we have leakage. We've got the top plate that goes to the level below us. And then for most people, this would be the back of drywall. We have OSB because it's my garage. But we want to seal up around these electrical boxes and actually even seal the box itself because that's where air leakage happens. So I'm going to utilize just an expanding foam, which works really fast to go around these boxes. It expands to fill those gaps, and then it adheres to the box as well as to the drywall or OSB. So as long as we can get a continuous air seal, we'll have a really effective means of keeping fire from jumping between one floor or another. And we'll also, in my case, keep those fumes from the garage from getting up into this attic space. And that's really important. The other thing that we can do, if we had wiring penetration through the top plate or plumbing, or even around bath fans, we can certainly use this expanding foam. But the other thing that I like to do is use a quality sealant at these joints because it's a little bit more elastic. It doesn't rely on the expansion of the polyurethane foam as much. And I can even trowel it down flat to really force it into these joints, which can be a benefit as well. So we'll seal up that top plate to drywall, or in this case, OSB connection. And then once our air sealing is complete and we have that continuous barrier to air leakage, now we're ready to go ahead and reinstall our insulation. And the key to insulation, which we'll talk more about in the next segment, is to make sure that you always have continuity. So any place that you have a wiring penetration that goes through, you're going to split that back and make sure you get the insulation underneath as well as on top. Get that underneath our wire. Now we're ready to reinstall. So when we start talking about insulation, we have a lot to cover. But first, let's talk about easier ways to work, because it's kind of tough to walk around on these ceiling joists. You got to stay balanced, and it's just a little safer if you've got some scrap wood laying around. Go ahead and lay that across and make it easy on yourself. Now let's get into insulation. I have a 2x6 ceiling joist here, and I'm using a batt product. That may not be common for all of you though. A lot of homes are insulated with a blown fiberglass or cellulose product, which is big, fluffy, and sometimes even covers up over the top of your ceiling joist, which makes it hard to walk around and see what you're doing. If you choose to gather that insulation up and bag it, you want to make sure that you put that R value back. R value is the resistance to heat loss. So if we want to stay comfortable in our homes, we've got to do a great job of insulating. And if we do that well, we can enjoy a durable attic deck for storage without any loss of comfort inside. So for what I'm going to do, I'm utilizing a Rockwool product. This is a batt product of fibrous insulation. And any fibrous insulation, you really want to make sure that you wear the safety gear that they recommend. For me, that's going to include a dust mask and also safety glasses, as well as gloves. And then I can just take the batt product and place it into the opening and tuck it down into place so that we have it tightly fitted on all sides. And if I have a gap, I'm going to want to address that. We're going to either stuff in more of the Rockwool, or I could run through real quickly with a little bit of gun foam. It's up to you, but that would be one way to address this. I'm going to stick with the Rockwool here and get it tucked back down in so that we have good continuity on all 6 sides of the opening. You know, both sides of the joist bay, as well as all the way to the end, and then eventually touching the back of our subfloor. Now that I have this all tucked in tight, this area is ready to receive my subfloor, and I can either use the plank that we talked about, or in this case, a 4x8 sheet. So let's get started on our next steps. So now that we've completed all of our insulation and air sealing details, we're ready to put in our panels. And we're going to start in this application by utilizing a subfloor adhesive. If we glue down the panels, we can eliminate squeaks and make a more robust structural connection from our panel to our framing members. Now, if I was thinking I might have to take this material up later, I would probably not glue it. That would be a hard thing to remove. But in this case, I might even use this as an office later on down the road. I've made this a permanent connection, so we're going to start with glue. And we're only going to set one panel at a time. So I'm coming 4 feet out because my panels are 4x8. Put a nice generous bead down. And what I'm going to do is leave one spot for my foot so that I can step in to set my panel down because if I had finished drywall or plaster on the ceiling below and I drop that panel, I might vibrate the ceiling a little bit. I could crack my drywall or my plaster, and then I've got to repair. So I'm going to leave a little bit of a spot here for my foot. And then the other thing you want to know is where your joists are going to be at for nailing, and I'll be able to see them on both ends, which will make it easy for me to nail. But any fastener needs to catch the structure below, or you won't end up with a good positive connection. So for speed, I'm actually going to nail these. And anytime you're using any sort of a nailing gun, you want to be sure you have your safety glasses. So something important to understand is that while our material is 4x8, not all layouts remain perfect. So our ceiling joist might not land at splitting the support for the next joint. So if we have a spot like that, as we did here, we just added a second piece of material. This is what we would call a scab or a sister, to attach this board to this board so that we have solid nailing. The other thing I want to point out is, in order to have the strongest floor you can with this tongue and groove condition, we actually want to stagger our joints. So I won't put another board here next. I'll do this board, and then I'll split this joint with a full board. So this area will have a full sheet, and we'll have the joint offset by at least a couple of joists all the time. And that's how you get your strongest floor. So with the right planning, you can deck your attic safely and keep your options open for the future. If you found this video helpful, give it a like and subscribe for more how-to projects like this one. Drop a comment below and let us know what other projects you'd like to see. We'll provide links to the tools and materials for this project in the description below, or you can visit your local Lowe's. And as always, thanks for watching.